Hazun, son named Revelation, chapters 8 and 9. And when the Lamb opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. I saw that the 7 messengers who stood before Alua were each given a trumpet. Another messenger who had the gold container for incense came and stood over the altar. He was given a great amount of incense in order to offer it with the prayers of Alua's people on the gold altar in front of the throne. And the smoke of the incense together with the prayers of Alua's set apart people went up to Alua out of the messenger's hands. After this, the messenger filled the incense container with fire from the altar, and then he threw it on the earth. Thunder roared, lightning flashed, and the entire earth shook. The 7 messengers then got ready to blow their 7 trumpets. The first messenger blew his trumpet. Hail and fire mixed with blood were thrown down on the earth. A third of the earth and a third trees, a third of all green plants were burnt up. When the second messenger blew his trumpet, something like a great fiery mountain was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea turned to blood. A third of all the living creatures in the sea died. A third of all the ships were destroyed. When the third messenger blew his trumpet, a great star fell from heaven. It was like a burning torch, and it fell on the third of the rivers and a third of the springs of the water. The name of the star is called Wormwood, and a third of all the waters turned bitter. Many people died because the water was so bitter. And when the fourth messenger blew his trumpet, a third of the sun, a third of the moon, a third of the stars were struck. They each lost a third of their light, so that a third of the day had no light, and that it was the same for the night. Then I looked and saw a lone eagle flying across the sky. It was shouting with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to everyone who lives on the earth because of the other 3 messengers that are now about to blow their trumpets." And when chapter 9, when the 5th messenger blew his trumpet, I saw a star fall from the sky to the earth. It was given a key to the tunnel that led down to the pit of the abyss. As he opened the pit of the abyss, smoke poured out like the smoke of a great furnace. The sun and air turned black and dark because of the smoke. The locusts came out of the smoke and covered the whole earth. They were given the same power as scorpions. The locusts were told not to harm any grass, plant, or tree on the earth. However, they were instructed to punish everyone that did not have the mark of Yahuwah on their foreheads. You want the mark of Yahuwah on your forehead. To claim the name of Yahuwah. Immerse yourself in the name of Yahuwah. Call upon Yahuwah for salvation. Hallelujah. The locusts, verse 5, were allowed to make those people suffer for 5 months, but not kill them. The suffering they caused was like that of a torment from the sting of scorpions. In those days, people will want to die, but they will not be able to. They will hope for death, but it will run from them. These locusts looked like horses prepared for war. On their heads, they wore something that looked like gold crowns, and they had human faces. Their hair was like the long hair of a woman, and their teeth were like those of lions. They had breastplates made of iron. The sound of their wings was like the sound of many chariots whose horses were rushing into war. They had tails like scorpions with stingers on them. The stings had the power to hurt people for 5 months. The ruler over them was the messenger in charge of the abyss. His name in Abari is Abaddon, and in the Aramaic, his name is Shara. The first woe has passed, but behold, there are 2 more woes yet to come. Then the 6th messenger blew his trumpet. I heard a voice from the 4 corners of the horns of the gold altar that stand in the presence of Alua. The voice spoke to the 6th messenger who had the trumpet and said, "Release the 4 messengers that have been tied up at the great Parat River." Then the 4 messengers were set loose. They had prepared for that very hour, that very day, that very month, and that very year to kill 1/3 of all humankind. I heard the number of how many of them would be set loose. The number of their war horses was 200 million. And this is how I saw the horses and their riders in the vision. They had breastplates that were fiery red, dark blue, and yellow as sulfur. The horses' heads looked like the heads of lions, and out of their mouths came fire, smoke, and brimstone sulfur. By these 3 plagues, 1/3 of all human beings were killed by the fire, smoke, and brimstone sulfur that was coming out of their mouths. The power of the horses was in their mouths and in their tails. Their tails were like snakes with heads that inflict injuries on whoever they strike. And the rest of humankind who were not killed by these plagues, they did not change their hearts and their lives. They still worshipped idols and demons. They kept on worshipping idols made of gold, silver, bronze, stone, and wood. None of the idols can see, hear, or walk. Of the humans who remained on the earth, none of them stopped murdering, practicing witchcraft, being sexually immoral, and stealing. The pure word of Alua. Truth Scriptures. Hallelujah.